Have you ever heard of someone who seemed to just pull genius out of thin air? We're talking about a mathematician who, with practically zero formal training, turned the entire field on its head. His name was Srinivasa Ramanujan, and his story is just incredible.
And that's really the big question, isn't it? How does a clerk from a small town in India, with almost no access to the academic world, create work that would absolutely stun the greatest minds at Cambridge? Well, let's dive in and find out.
To understand this wizard, we have to go back to the very beginning. And his story doesn't start in some grand university lecture hall, but in a small town in southern India, where this unbelievable mind was just starting to see the magic in numbers.
Ramanujan came from a very modest background. And from a super young age, while other kids were out playing, he was completely captivated by math. It was more than just a subject for him. It was like this deep, almost mystical connection to numbers that made him different from literally everyone else.
And this fascination? It wasn't something he learned in a classroom. Nope. It turned into this intense, solitary journey. With no teachers, no mentors, Ramanujan had to basically invent his own path into the deepest parts of mathematics.
The whole thing started with one book. But you have to understand, this wasn't your average textbook. It was this super dense collection of thousands of theorems with almost no explanations. For most people, it'd be totally impossible to understand. But for Ramanujan, it wasn't a lesson. It was a key that unlocked his own universe of ideas. And from that one book, he started creating his own original work.
His life was tough. I mean, really tough. He actually had to drop out of college because of money problems, but that didn't stop him. While working as a clerk, he filled notebook after notebook with thousands of formulas, ideas that were decades, sometimes a century ahead of their time. These became the legendary Ramanujan notebooks.
So for years, this incredible mind was working in complete isolation. But then, in 1913, everything changed. He decided to take a huge chance and reach out to one of the most famous mathematicians in the entire world. He mailed a letter stuffed with his formulas all the way to G.H. Hardy at Cambridge University. Just try to picture it. Hardy, this top-tier academic, gets a letter from some unknown clerk in India, and it's filled with math that looks like nothing anyone had ever seen before.
Hardy was just blown away. He and his colleagues looked at it and realized pretty quickly this wasn't some random amateur. This was a genius of a completely different order. That one letter became Ramanujan's ticket from total obscurity to the absolute center of the mathematical universe. Hardy knew he had to bring him to Cambridge.
And his years at Cambridge? It was like a creative explosion. Ramanujan finally had someone who could understand his language, who could challenge him. But this amazing period of achievement came at a terrible, terrible price.
Together, he and Hardy made these revolutionary breakthroughs. And this wasn't just abstract stuff. Ramanujan's work in number theory helps form the basis for modern cryptography, the stuff that keeps your data safe online. His ideas on partitions and infinite series gave physicists brand new tools to understand the universe, even influencing how we study black holes. This isn't just history, it's fundamental math and science we still use today.
But here's the heartbreaking part. While his mind was soaring in Cambridge, his body was failing. The cold, damp English weather was awful for him, and as a strict vegetarian, finding the right food was a constant struggle. It's this tragic paradox. The very place that gave him the recognition he deserved was also destroying his health.
He got so sick that he had to return to India in 1919. And just a year later, this brilliant light was gone. He was only 32 years old. It's just devastating to think about.
So his life was tragically short, but his legacy? Oh, it's absolutely immortal. Ramanujan left behind so much profound work that mathematicians over 100 years later are still trying to unpack all of it.
And there's one famous story that just perfectly captures the way his mind worked. It's all about a single number that's become a legend in its own right, 1729. It's known as the Ramanujan number.
Okay, so the story goes that Hardy went to visit Ramanujan when he was sick in the hospital. Hardy mentioned that his taxi number was 1729 and said, what a dull number. Without even hesitating, Ramanujan shot back, no, it is a very interesting number. He just knew, right off the top of his head, that it's the smallest number you can get by adding two different cubes in two different ways. It's a perfect little window into a mind that just saw poetry where the rest of us see plain old numbers.
So what's the big takeaway here? Ramanujan's life is just this powerful, powerful proof of what the human spirit can do. It shows us that true genius doesn't come from a fancy education or having all the resources in the world. It comes from a passion that you just can't extinguish and a relentless drive to explore it. And that really leaves us with a final, kind of mind-blowing thought. His story makes you wonder, right?
How many other brilliant minds are out there right now working away in obscurity, just waiting for someone to notice? What incredible potential is just waiting to be discovered? Thanks for tuning in.